Oh, I use the cell service on trucks. Yes. I think the NSA is not. I keep listening. I tell Pompeo, help me out here. You're California Resources now? I am. So Todd and I went to school together.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. So I transitioned out in March.
As well as we're probably. What part of that race? This is hole one. Show up. Let's see if you're Darren Carr. Well, good morning. I appreciate you all coming out. This is for the Service Academy. Hope you're all in the right place. And I know a lot of people drove a longer distance, some from Lancaster, Artillery, and I appreciate you doing that. And this is mainly just to find out if the Academy is for you. We take this job very serious. It's more than going to college. It's a way of life. You're making a commitment afterwards. And we have some great representatives here that are going to give you some insight into how to look at this and really if this is for you. So let's start off with the invocation. Let's have Greg McGiffney, our liaison for the Navy, to come up and lead us in prayer.
Thank you. I'll bow our heads in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and our time together with these families, and just bless them and keep them in your heart and in our spirit. And as a country, help these families be full part of what all we stand for. And just thank you for our time together. Keep us safe. And we pray also for all those who are under severe conditions, and we pray for their safety and well-being. Amen.
If you please stand, join me in the flag salute. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Now, one thing you should know is this district is probably one of the more competitive districts to get into the academy. It goes by congressional district. So, first of all, if you apply through this district and you don't live in the district, it won't work. We'll have to send you to whoever represents you, she or he. And in Kern County, we have two districts, David Valadeo, myself, and we work closely together. Now, the most important person you want to meet today is right behind me. Katie, will you please stand up? Katie McEwen handles all this for my office, and she's done this every year that I've been a member of Congress, and she helped Congressman Thomas before that. She will work with you beyond your dreams. If you get in and somehow physically you're not there, her husband is a football coach. He'll take you out, and he's trained others and got them through. We do everything in our power to get you in. But she can help walk you through the application. You'll become good friends with her. And before you depart, we always do an event so all the parents can meet each other to know what to expect as you go through. And Katie and I like to go and visit you at the academies as well. We want to make sure if you get in, you get through, and that we're here for you. So she's a great person to make sure you meet today before you go. Even if you don't have a question, just say hi so she gets an idea who you are, and you could have a great contact with her and get her card. So thank you, Katie, for all that you do. You all got a folder, very important. Couple areas in there that I want to highlight: the application and the selection process. What I try to do, I take all politics out of this process. So you could be very nice to me, you could be my next door neighbor, you could be my relative, but I really don't have the say in the process, okay? I want you to be selected on your merit, because you know what? Do not do this if you're not doing it because you want to. Don't do this because your grandparents wanted you to do it. Make sure you want to do it, because if you get in and it's not something you want, you will not survive. And there's a reason why, because it's more than a college. It is the best education you will find anywhere, but it is a commitment to your country. And as you all know right now, that is a big commitment. You could be defending your country in different places far and away from here. And so I want to make sure it's for you. And if it's not, there's nothing wrong with that. But I want to get as many people from this district as possible. So what I do is I have a selection committee. And in that selection committee, there's usually one or two that have been there other years prior. And in there, I make a microcosm kind of a society. I'll take somebody from education. I'll take a couple people who've been through the academy, and a community individual too. And if you meet the criteria, which you've got to have the education level, and I won't interview if you wouldn't get selected to the academy. But if you meet that criteria, it'll be on one Saturday. Everybody gets interviewed. I know you'll walk in and some people say, I just want to fly, so I'm just going to go to the Air Force. You'll find out that the Navy sometimes is flying a little more difficult because that you have to land on planes that are on ships that are actually moving. So there's all places to fly. But select all of them, because you may come out as number 2, but you only want to go to one academy, and that person may be right ahead of you. And how it works is I get to make a principal appointment to every academy, except the Coast Guard, right? Coast Guard does it all on its own. Then I make 9 alternates. You could be an alternate and a principal for different academies, and you still will be able to get in. We have had as high as 12 people in 1 year get in. Now, I will tell you, the academies are making it more competitive because they're not giving as many slots as they were in past years. So it is a competitive process as you go. So if you look online, I want you to know the application is in Adobe on our website, so you could fill it out right there, print it out, and mail it in. The first test that you will have, and it never fails, every year somebody comes to me. If you cannot make the deadline to fill out your application, you're not going to make it in the academy. So I'm not going to waive it. And I'll tell you, I've had some very dear friends call me with all the great excuses, and I said, I just cannot do it. We're going to make this as fair as process. The selection committee will make all the nominations. I'll put them in the order in which they make them. You can talk to people who've been on the selection process before. If you are not moving in to be a senior this year and you're going to be a junior, the best thing you can do, apply for the summer program. It's not expensive, but what will happen here is you'll have a good understanding. You'll spend a week at one of these academies. You'll get up early. You'll have to run. You'll understand what's expected of you, and they'll understand whether you're really the material that they want as well. It could help you all the way around, and it shows the seriousness of what you're applying. So the deadline you want to remember is October 20th. You have to have your paperwork in by October 20th. This is moved up a month from the years before, and it will always stay now as October 20th. Start talking to Katie now. She'll make sure he has it. It doesn't work as I've got most of it in and something's coming later. That won't work. The academy will frown on that. They give you a deadline. They want to make sure you make the deadline. That's your first test. Information for the summer's programs, as I said, if you're a junior, they're included in the package as well. one part that I've explained is that even though you become an alternate, you may be an alternate in a couple different academies, and you'll have a very good chance still of getting in. The one thing about this being so competitive, we have great candidates. And we currently have 28 kids in the academies from this district. 5 women in the process too. They're doing exceptionally well. And one thing I want you to tell you, when you get in, they'll test you. And they'll test, everybody will be in the same boat. Do not give up. All they're doing is bringing you back to something stronger in what they have. And today what we'll do is we'll walk through, you're gonna have a number of representatives here, we'll go by academy, and I apologize, a little further into this, I'm gonna have to depart a little early. I gotta go to Michigan today. Mike Raysburn's gonna take over and finish it up for me. But afterwards, be sure and come up and ask any questions you have of the representatives. We wanna make sure we help you get there and be a part of it. As I said, there's 9 alternates in each academy as well. So pick as many academies as you want. I always say apply to all of them. They are all part of service to this country. They all have the very best education system you could imagine. But don't expect if you get in that you're joining a fraternity or a sorority. You're becoming something much different, and it is for that reason why we look for the very best. So how we'll do this so everybody understands, there's a little video with each academy, and so we'll play the video, then I'll have the representative get up, and every representative is coming. They love their country, they serve their country, but they're going to try to convince you that their academy is the very best. They'll harass one another about who won the football game last year or who's playing this year. They'll tell you why there was the best, but also you'll find, and I'll tell you this, if you come out of academy, and I served with a couple members who did in Congress, they're looked at differently. You could put your whole life into service to the country, and we'll have a very grateful nation for you to do that. When you depart, you will have a job. You'll be first on the list. A good friend of mine came in, he graduated first in his class at West Point. He served a couple years in Congress. He had a new administration. He now heads the CIA. And I'll guarantee you one of the first ways they looked at it based upon the background of the education, which he got and what he served. So there is always a place in the private sector, the public sector too for you. So let's start off by our first briefing. This is going to be the American Service Academy. It's a 5-point star. And we are going to start with the U.S. Air Force Academy, if I'm correct.
In 1954, just 7 years after the founding of the Air Force, President Dwight D. Eisenhower directed the establishment of the United States Air Force Academy. Located near Colorado Springs, Colorado, the academy nestles against the eastern slopes of the majestic Rocky Mountains with a campus covering 18,000 acres. Our proud heritage includes the accomplishments of military aviation pioneers like Billy Mitchell, Hap Arnold, and Benjamin O. Davis. Air Force Academy alumni include a Medal of Honor recipient, a congresswoman, and several astronauts. The mission of the United States Air Force Academy is to educate, train, and inspire men and women to become officers of character, motivated to lead the United States Air Force in service to our nation. To that effort, we strive to attract highly qualified, diverse candidates from varying backgrounds who will strengthen and enrich the cadet learning environment and prepare our graduates to lead a global expeditionary air force. The Academy is guided by the Air Force's core values of integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do, and based on the 4 pillars of military training, academics, athletics, and character development. Air Force Academy cadets hone their leadership skills through a variety of airmanship, immersion, exchange, and summer training programs. Whether it's participating in the world's premier aviation program, with 90% of the soaring instructor pilots and free fall parachute instructors being cadets, traveling across the globe for one of our many immersion or exchange programs, or shadowing an active duty member at an operational Air Force base, cadets take these experiences well into their Air Force careers. Each cadet may choose from over 30 academic majors and several minors with courses in engineering, basic sciences, social sciences, and humanities. No matter which path they decide, USAFA cadets are prepared for a future in the Air Force. Since every cadet is an athlete, all will participate in either intercollegiate, intramural, or club competition at the highest levels. Nearly 24% of our cadets compete at the Division I level. And we are rated #1 nationally for athletic opportunities for women. As a future officer, character development is a key part of an Air Force Academy's cadet experience.
When you exit that bus, you took the first step that every member of the Longview line is taking. Do not disappoint those that came before you. Standards are set much higher for you now. You've chosen to sacrifice your personal pride for your brothers and sisters in arms.
The Academy is proud of having more than 200 hours of character development training courses covering human relations and leadership, along with many other emphasis areas. After 4 challenging yet rewarding years, Air Force Academy graduates earn a Bachelor of Science degree and a commission as second lieutenants. The education and training of America's future leaders is paramount. Let the United States Air Force Academy be the path to joining the world's premier air, space, and cyberspace force.
You've got something special to explain for the U.S. Air Force Academy. You're going to have 2 people. We're going to have Lieutenant Colonel Bob Kay. He's the chief pilot for Northrop Grumman Global Hawk Production Test Operations in Plant 42. He, along with his wife, Ellie Kay, but he's a graduate of 1978. Ellie authored over 15 books and a popular speaker and media veteran, founder of Heroes at Home 501c3, which helps support military members and their family. But a unique part of this, they have 7 children. 3 of them have gone to academies, different academies. So I don't know who they vote for when it comes to the football season. Or Ellie tells me she votes for her favorite son on that day. So, but please give a round of applause to Lieutenant Colonel Bob Kay and Ellie Kay.
Thank you, Congressman McCarthy. Very much appreciate that. Kate, thanks so much for just running an outstanding program. And I do want to just to mention that the Air Force Academy does have the Commander-in-Chief's trophy, sir. Just saying. So that's what I tell my children. It is an honor to be here. District 23 is really one of the preeminent congressional districts in the country for sending fine young men and women to military academies. I am a little partial to Air Force. Obviously, with my family background, I can't say that too loud because my Marine son is 6'4" and 210 pounds, and he'll bend me like a pretzel if I say too much about Air Force. But I grew up in lovely Reseda, California, yay Tom Petty, and my life's passion was to be a fighter pilot. I lived, ate, drank, breathed everything about flying fighters. My educational opportunities were not what one would call outstanding, but with that passion, it was to be able to do that. The best way that I felt to do that was to go to the academy, and I was very blessed to be able to get an appointment a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and went to the academy. I was a beach bum with hair down to my shoulders, and next thing I know, it's all shaved off, and I'm doing some really weird things. But it was an experience that I will absolutely never forget, and when I graduated, I was able to fly fighters for the better part of 26 years and still get to be in aviation now. My point is that it is an opportunity to do something that not only do you serve your country in a way that very few people can imagine, but you get to do something that is far higher than yourself. And it is certainly an opportunity that is worth pursuing. Now, I know that it is, the blessing is that District 23 is outstanding, but the other part is that it is extremely competitive. So, but what I want to impart on you folks, and then my lovely bride, who's a much better speaker than I am, will come and talk to you parents, but do not give up. If the competitiveness of this district is something that does not allow you to go try again. Over 20 to 30% of the incoming class tried the year before. They tried maybe 2 years before. If that doesn't work, there is ROTC. We can talk to you more about that one-on-one, which is an excellent opportunity. I have had candidates that have actually enlisted in the Air Force and then have applied for the LEAD program. I've had several candidates from Edwards Air Force Base that I worked with as an admissions liaison officer that are now cadets at the Air Force Academy. They did well in high school, not well enough. They decided to enlist, and then they absolutely were the best airmen in their career field that the world had ever known. And their commander, which is the nominating source for an active duty enlisted person, strongly recommended them. They competed successfully. They went to the prep school for a year, and they are now cadets. So if you want it, you can have it. It just depends on which way you're going to get there. But do not give up on your dream. Do not give up on what you want to do. And any institution is outstanding. You'll hear about all of them today, and they are all preeminent institutions. So it is my encouragement to you to follow your passion and your dream, as I was able to do. I was a poor kid in the San Fernando Valley and got to do it. So there is a way there, and it is our honor and our pleasure to be able to help you in any way we can today. And with that, I'll introduce Ellie, as I said, who's a significantly better speaker than me, and she would like to specifically talk to you parents who are about to enter a strange new world of being an Academy parent. Thank you.
Well, Bob won't tell you this, but he is the world's greatest fighter pilot, too. So if there's another fighter pilot in the room, they will tell you that they're the world's greatest fighter pilot. I wear a lot of different hats. I'm an admissions liaison officer for the Air Force Academy. I've also served on Academy admissions panels for members of Congress, but I'm a mom also, and that's my most important role, I feel, and that's the role I'd like to talk to you about today for parents. Now, one of the things that you need to keep in mind about this generation that you are parenting right now, there's a lot of characteristics of a millennial and Generation Z student. And these characteristics include one key element, and that element involves you, because today these millennials are parented by helicopter parents. It is very common to have a helicopter parent. These are the parents that hover over their children so closely that they're following up on absolutely every single thing that they do. And when students sometimes get to colleges where they're going without the parent there to remind them to do that homework and to get ahead on that project and to just hover over every little thing that they do, they can go to college and they can fail. This is especially true at one of the service academies. Part of the vetting process for your candidate, for your student, is filling out that application. One of the things we say in the ALO business is that in order to compete, you have to complete. And completing the package is something that is very difficult. Your student will be the one to complete that package. That also vets them out as someone who can handle the rigors of the academy and the institution in which they're going. So how can you be a parent who is not a helicopter parent? Well, I want to have you guys take a little quiz as to what you think might indicate that you are a helicopter parent or that you're not. And so I'm going to make a statement, and I want you to either put your hand up if you think that's helicopter, or just keep it down, like it's not helicoptering. Because this will actually help you in the process of what it looks like from a lot of different perspectives, including the admission officer perspective, as well as the institution itself. So, do you think it is a helicopter thing to call, for the parent, to call the admissions liaison officer? Yes. Okay, that's definitely a helicopter thing. What about calling the superintendent of the institution, which is the 3-star? Yeah, that is like, okay, that's like a double helicopter. Okay, these are people flying in formation, so please don't do that. That's something you should not do. What about knowing where your student is in the candidate process? Okay, so once they become seniors, they're filling out the application, they've got a lot to do. How about knowing where they are in the process? Is that helicopter or not? Actually, it's not. It becomes helicopter when you're on their portal, You're inside their portal, and you're following up on what they need to do and keeping them up on that. That could definitely be a helicopter portion, but knowing where they are, checking up with them is not. What about reviewing their essays? Just getting another set of eyes on their essays before they turn them in. Is that helicopter or no? No, it's not. What about writing their essays? Okay. Yeah, all right, there you go. Writing their essays would be. What about helping them practice for interviews? Because one of the things we tell our own kids, but as an ALO, we tell our students, the interview at the member of Congress's office, that interview, as well as the interview with the admissions liaison officer, is one of the most important interviews you'll ever have in your life. It's a $425,000 interview. Those were the latest figures on what it cost to educate someone going to a service academy. That is one heck of an important interview. Helping your student prepare for this interview, is that helicoptering? No, it's not. In fact, if you want to write something down, you can write down Ellie@LEK.com. I will send you a list of questions that you can practice. And it's a good idea to practice these questions with your student. That is something that you can do. What about giving him the answers to the questions? Yeah, that's definitely a helicopter thing, giving them the answers. So you get an idea of what it means to be this kind of a parent and what you can do for your student. And I'd like to close with saying something about heroes. You know, those that serve in our armed forces will tell you that they're not heroes just because they put on a uniform. They're heroes because they serve with integrity first, a sense of service before self, and excellence in all they do. That is pretty heroic. But America needs another kind of hero that is sitting in this room today, and those are our heroes at home. Those are the parents, the grandparents, the siblings, spouses that serve and support our military members. And you guys are sitting there with students that you're supporting to go serve our nation, not just to go to an academy, but to serve afterwards. And that is heroic. And I just want to say something to the moms in particular that are afraid of that. People think because I come from a military family, married 30 years to the world's greatest fighter pilot, that it is easy for me to have the idea of a son going off to war. It's not. But I know that each of those 3 boys that went to academies had a dream. And their dream was to go to the academy and to serve. And being a good mom, I can support their dream without being real gung-ho about them deploying afterwards. So I want to salute you, heroes at home, telling you that America needs you. We need your support of that child sitting next to you. And we need you to keep a strong armed forces. Thank you.
All right, it's LEK, ELLIEKAY.com. ELLIEKAY.com. That is great information. And one thing Bob brought up, if you apply and you don't get in, you may go to college 1 year, or you can go to prep school and come back and apply again or enlist. That happens every single year. Now, you would go away to college for 1 year maybe and come back. You will lose that time at college, but I will tell you, you'll be better prepared when you go in. If you go to a prep school, you'll be very prepared coming in. Physically, mentally, you'll have a better understanding. And so if this is a dream of yours, don't give up. And there's a lot of individuals that we have nominated the second time around and got in. So that's very good. And one thing you should know as you go through too, when you go to these academies, they have academy families for you that kind of adopt you as well. So it's helpful along the way. But I thought Ellie brought up one of the best points through here. You will find when you go to an academy and you have friends going away to college, the world is different. But you know what? You'll be different too. There's a reason why people look to hire individuals come out of the academy. Yes, we love that they served our nation, but everyone who comes out of the academy has character. They're honest. They're above reproach. It's the way they carry about themselves. And you'll see it in your children in their first year back. The way they stand, the way they react, and the way they handle a situation. And so, yes, you'll serve time in the military, and there's a chance that you will be in conflict, but you will be the best prepared of anybody that's in conflict. We want you to be that way to protect you, and we'll provide all the ability that we can. Next up, we're going to look at West Point. So let's look at the video.
The United States Military Academy at West Point. The name evokes feelings of pride and achievement. Located on 16,000 acres of quiet hills, woods, and fields in the beautiful Hudson River Valley, West Point has been training the Army's future leaders for more than 200 years. Although located in the tranquility of the Hudson Valley, New York City, the home of Wall Street, Broadway, and Lady Liberty, is less than an hour's drive from West Point. Since the Military Academy's founding in 1802, West Point has defined leadership in academics, in physical fitness, in military training, and in selfless service to the nation. Consistently ranked among our nation's top colleges and world-renowned for its leadership development, West Point combines cutting-edge technology and educational innovation in state-of-the-art facilities at this historic site. Both past and present, the long gray line is full of warrior scholars dedicated to our nation and inspired to serve a cause higher than themselves. The core curriculum at West Point stresses the fundamentals of engineering and military leadership. West Point was our nation's first engineering school, and its engineering programs are still ranked among the best in the country. But cadets can choose from among more than 35 majors, including computer science, information technology, foreign languages, and economics. Opportunities are also available for research and study, both across the United States and around the world. In addition to semester abroad and military academy exchange programs, cadets might spend time in the summer on advanced individual academic development projects, such as researching renewable energy in Uganda, studying rotorcraft aeroelasticity in Hampton, Virginia, researching virtual reality cognitive performance in Marina del Rey, California, or participating in language and cultural immersion in countries like France, China, Tajikistan, or Brazil. Fitness is a key component for every Army officer, so naturally the Military Academy places a high value on physical training. So whether it's competing in one of the 29 intercollegiate club sports, participating in intramurals, or representing the Army Black Knights on one of the Army's 25 NCAA teams, every cadet is an athlete. Even for those who come here prepared to face a challenge, the road to becoming an Army officer is a demanding one, and it should be. Because upon graduation, all cadets receive Bachelor of Science degrees and commissions as second lieutenants in the U.S. Army. To prepare cadets for the challenges they will face as Army officers, leaders in today's Army and the world, the Military Academy hones cadets' abilities within a strong moral, ethical framework. They are taught how to think, not what to think. And when they emerge as Army officers, they will be soldier scholars, critical thinkers, and creative problem solvers, prepared for the extraordinary responsibility faced by leaders of character in service to our nation. For more than 2 centuries, the United States Military Academy at West Point has developed leaders of character, inspired to serve, providing an education rich in military excellence, steeped in tradition, and strengthened by moral, ethical principles. This is not just the Army's academy, it's America's academy, a place that embodies the time-honored values of our nation.
We're going to have Captain Tyler Huffsedler come up. He's the first year of liaison officer. He graduated in 2011 from West Point. He works for Cal Resources Corporation. And one thing you want to see here. Once you enter your junior year, you're making a commitment to serve your nation because your nation's paying for your education. He served his nation, but also he got recruited. It's that type of world when you want to come out. The businesses will recruit you to come in because of the quality of education that you get. I give you Captain Tyler.
Well, good morning. My name is Tyler Huffstetler. I graduated from West Point in 2011. I recently transitioned out of the Army in May of 16. But first, let me just take a step back and thank you, Katie. This is a tremendous amount of work that goes into the nomination process. The application process is long and rigorous. And the behind-the-scenes work, whether it's from Katie or from the Congressman's staff, we truly appreciate it. I'm thrilled to be here this morning. Whenever your alma mater comes back and asks you to help represent them, you want to jump at it and you want to do the absolute best that you can. And what I wanted to do was come back and say, hey, I want to be there for the next generation of cadets that go to West Point, or even to the Air Force, or if it has to be to the Navy. But what I want to be, but I want to be there for you, and I want you to know that you have our support once you enter that academy, whether it's through the application process or even into it. You enter a brotherhood, a sisterhood, a network that we will always be there for you, and we have your back. I want to thank you, each and every one of you young adults, for being here also, for expressing that desire to want to serve. As you know, we're an all-volunteer force, right? So we are only as strong to defend tomorrow's enemies as you are today, as those who are willing to raise their right hands. So thank you for being here. We truly want you to attend the academy. There are many different avenues there, as others have already mentioned, the prep school, or maybe going prior service and then coming into the academy. I personally went through the prep school. The prep school is a phenomenal experience. It prepared me in ways that I would never have been prepared otherwise had I come directly out of high school. Had I come directly out of high school, there's no way I would have made it. The prep school prepared me academically, mentally, and physically. If you do not get in on your first attempt, please explore other routes, whether it's go do a year or two of junior college, whether it's enlist, whether it's try through the prep school first. You have to explore these other opportunities. If this is your dream, if this is your passion, if serving in the Army as an Army officer is what you want to do, then you need to explore all these different routes. Entering West Point is very serious, right? So there's always going to be threats. There will be threats when you leave the academy. You will inevitably serve on foreign soil. You will go to places like Afghanistan, Iraq, Korea, and any other threat at the time. So as you enter West Point, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going there for the academics, for the outstanding network. You're going because you want to serve in the Army. And that is pinnacle to the reason why you go. It's not because of academics. It's not because of the outstanding engineering programs. It has to be because you want to raise your right hand and serve our nation abroad. As a recent graduate, I can share my experiences after this with anyone that wants to know about the application process during life at the academy, all 4 years there, life in the Army, and then life now post-Army. Academically, West Point is very rigorous. U.S. News and World Report recently named West Point the #1 public school. So I'm not sure where our other academy brethren rank, but we are #1, and it's lonely at the top. We are #1 in civil engineering. We're #4 in electrical engineering, and #4 overall undergraduate engineering programs. Thomas Jefferson established West Point as an engineering school, and this belief still holds true today. Me personally, I was a business management major, and my minor was in systems engineering. Now, you take enough credits, you take enough courses in order to, at some other schools, be a double major. But at West Point, you're only 3 classes shy. So if you're motivated, you can follow on 3 classes and become a double major. You'll be exposed to a wide range of classes. So as a management major, I took physics, I took chemistry, I took calculus. It's a very arduous process. But the network, the brother and sisterhood that you find at West Point is such that if physics isn't my strong point, you put your roommates, your company mates, your classmates, they put their arms around you and they say, hey, Tyler, it's all right. We're going to get through this together. They help school me up, whether in physics or another academic class, and I help them out physically. So it's very much of a family mentality. West Point has 37 different majors. I believe the video said 35. We've recently added 2 more majors. It's probably, I'm not sure, I believe that's, if not the most, then it's the second most majors of any academy. Summer internships. Last year we sent 1,074 students abroad. We had, we had 359 cadets in 47 countries, 715 cadets stateside. When I was at West Point, I actually participated in those programs. I did two. I did one with the FBI in New Jersey, outside Fort Monmouth, in a place called Red Bank, New Jersey. I also did one with Oxy Oil and Gas. I worked down in Argentina, worked in marketing, so I learned how to sell crude. All this is a part of West Point's mission to educate and train and develop leaders of character. They want soldier scholars. They want you to bring in this entrepreneurship attitude into the service. They want the can-do. They want you to bring a different perspective. From physical development, the other peer that we have, so there's 3 peers. The physical development, you'll be challenged at West Point, and rightfully so, because someday, if you go through West Point and if you graduate, you will be standing in front of soldiers. You'll be standing in front of them, and you need to be expected to lead from the front in all things. And that includes physical. West Point, as the video mentioned, has 30 NCAA sports, 16 competitive club sports, and 11 intramurals. So the unique thing about West Point is that all cadets will be athletes. You'll participate in any one of those sports. While there, you can find yourself, whether it's in boxing or in taekwondo or on sprint football teams, or if you are a recruit athlete, on the football team itself. Militarily, you'll complete summer trainings that involve airborne school, air assault school, scuba school, and a plethora of other options. In all things, West Point will focus on developing leaders of character, and a part of being a leader of character is shaped in part by the adversity that you will face. And West Point will certainly give you lots of adversity to face, but it's what you come out as. You'll be stronger, you'll be more mentally tough, and you'll be prepared to face any of the challenges that tomorrow's threat faces us. From the other military development aspects, there are 138 cadets that went to 4 different countries last year for foreign military schools. Schools that include Chilean Mountain School. Following West Point, you can enter 17 different branches. So a branch of the service for us is whether it's field artillery, infantry, armor, medical field. You can be a pilot. You can go rotary wing, fixed wing aviation. You can be in transportation corps. You can work on logistics and supply chain aspects. You can say, hey, and all of these will be very transferable skills to whenever that time comes for you to make the transition out of the service, ultimately. I highly encourage each candidate to apply for the Summer Leader Seminar. While at West Point, I work that detail, and it's eye-opening for candidates to come in. You have to go there. You have to know what you're getting involved with. You have to be able to say, this is what I want to do. Because otherwise, we don't want to take a slot for somebody that is truly passionate about being there. So I highly encourage each and every candidate to go to the Summer Leader Seminar. It's very, very important. Entering West Point, you'll be entering a family that dates back to 1802. All aspects of life at West Point are centered around the team. If you're a team sports person right now, this will be very familiar to you. Everything in the Army is about the team and the success of the unit. So while at West Point, if you struggle academically, physically, militarily, everybody will put your arms around you and say, it's okay, we got this, we'll do it together. So West Point is very difficult to get in, but you will not fail out because of lack of physical skills, lack of academics. Everybody will come to you, they'll put your arms around you, and you'll do it together. It's very much of a team mentality. Subsequently, you forge bonds and deep friendships with classmates from all around the world. I'm from Texas originally. My closest friends are not my friends from Texas anymore. My closest friends are from Pennsylvania, from New Jersey, from Florida. They're brothers. I can travel all around the United States right now, and even parts of the world, and I'll never have to worry about a place to stay. I can pick up the phone, and I call them, and I'll always have somebody to stay with. It's a powerful, powerful network to be associated with. You'll collect a small paycheck while studying at West Point, and it'll enable you to take cool adventures. Me personally, coming from Texas, I was eager to explore the world. So I went to St. Paddy's Day in Ireland. I went to spring break in Brazil. I did a study abroad for a little bit in Argentina. There's a whole different aspect. You don't lose out on the college experiences. It will be a different college experience, but you still have the opportunities to gain. Today we are, as I mentioned before, as I mentioned before, we can travel around the world, and that's very, very, very important to be able to rely on those networks. At West Point, there's a saying, much of the history we teach was made by the people that we taught. We're a family, and we respect each other. Receiving a nomination to West Point is more important than just passing the interviews. And it's more than a commitment of yourself to the academy or to the country. We're also committing to you. For the Long Gray Line is committed to you. I will have your back forever, whether in the academy or outside the academy. I'll be there for you as a member of the Long Gray Line. It's a powerful network, again, and it's an obligation that anytime you're associated with the Long Gray Line, with West Point, you pick up that phone, I have an obligation to answer that phone. I'll return your phone calls. We will be there for you. We look forward to each and every one of you applying for the process. If there's anything I can do during the process, please reach out to me. You have to open the packet. It's highly competitive. 50,000 packets a year are opened. Only a little, I think it's about 1,100 made in the last class. I look forward to getting to know each and every one of you better, and best of luck.
Just so happens the CEO of his company I went to high school with, and you know what's unique about him? He did something amazing. He went to the academy. I apologize. I'm going to have to step out. I'm going to turn it over to Mike Raisburn, who has been a liaison more than 20 years. He's been my friend more than 20 years. When he got out of the Merchant Marines, he continued to serve his country. He's a district attorney. A deputy district attorney here in Bakersfield who's done a tremendous job. So what I will do is I will talk about putting on the Naval Academy video, and then I'll step out and Mike will take over. And Mike McGiffney, he's going to come up and he's going to tell you how great the Navy is after that and refute everything we just heard about West Point. So let's see the Naval Academy video.
This is the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. On the banks of the Severn River and Chesapeake Bay, midshipmen earn a college degree and a commission as an ensign in the U.S. Navy or a second lieutenant in the U.S. Marine Corps. The Naval Academy emphasizes academics, physical training, leadership, and character to develop students from around the country to be leaders for our nation. Attending college in an environment of proud naval history and tradition, balanced with cutting-edge technology, makes the Naval Academy a truly unsurpassed experience. Our students choose from 24 majors in 3 concentrations: humanities and social sciences, math and sciences, and engineering and weapons. The Naval Academy is routinely ranked as one of the best engineering schools in the country, and all of our students earn a Bachelor of Science degree upon graduation. Outside the classroom, every midshipman is an athlete, competing in varsity, club, or intramural sports. The Naval Academy is the 3rd largest NCAA athletic program in the country, with over 30 Division I sports available. More than 120 extracurricular activities are available to accommodate a variety of personal interests, from musical ensembles and service organizations to academic and cultural clubs to adventure activities like skydiving, scuba diving, and mountain climbing. Midshipmen live in one of the largest single dormitories in the world, Bancroft Hall. Living and operating in units of about 150 students known as companies, midshipmen develop a tight bond with their fellow shipmates that lasts a lifetime. Midshipmen dine in King Hall, which feeds family-style meals to the entire student body of over 4,000 students in one single setting. Directly outside the main gate of the Naval Academy lies the city of Annapolis, the bustling state capital of Maryland. This exciting and energetic sailing city is full of unique restaurants, musical venues, and shops for students to enjoy. From this exceptional educational environment in Annapolis, Graduates of the Naval Academy go on to serve as surface warfare officers, submariners, pilots, special warfare operators, and Marines in exciting locations such as San Diego, Seattle, the Atlantic coast of Virginia, North Carolina, and Florida, as well as Hawaii, Japan, Italy, and numerous exciting locations around the globe. No matter where in the world they end up, officers from the Naval Academy apply the lessons learned in the past to shape the future of the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps. If you want an excellent education followed by an exciting and rewarding career leading sailors and Marines, consider the United States Naval Academy, where we produce leaders to serve the nation.
Good morning. You know, it's a great privilege of mine to step into Kevin's shoes, and more of a privilege to introduce my good friend, Captain Greg McGifney, who's a 1985 graduate of the United States Naval Academy. Has been 21 years a liaison officer for Kern County and just recently retired after completing his career as a naval reservist. Currently, he's in business development for a chemical manufacturer, and he has been one of the best blue and gold officers I've had the privilege of knowing all those 21 years. So, which just dates us, doesn't much else. So, with no further ado, Greg?
Thank you, thank you. I've served with Mike, and he's a great example of what public service is to our community as well as to our nation, so I appreciate that very much. I'm not here to refute anything the other reps have said, and we'll say to come here. It's because a lot of the same things you'll hear over and over again. The academies have a kind of a high standard, and I would tell you the U.S. Naval Academy has a 9% acceptance rate. It's the lowest rate, which is means it's very competitive. So if you're looking at that, don't be scared by it, but realize it is very competitive. Academy selection is very competitive. Academies are very competitive. Picture a school the size of BHS competing against Notre Dame, Ohio State, schools 25 times the size of an academy. That's the kind of competitive nature students in the academies have and are in, competing at that level. It's about competition, and I don't know if you remember the movie Replacements, and when Gene Hackman's talking about you gotta have heart. Well, you gotta have heart to stick it through an academy to do all the things you do in 4 years. I just want to say, you know, the thing that brought me to the academy, besides Navy football, I'll tell you, because growing up as a young man many years ago, and I've worn the same uniform since 1981, not this uniform, but you know what I mean, the same uniform. It looks very similar. Maybe better now? Okay. Anyway, during that time, I don't know how many of you remember typewriters and landlines and things like that. The libraries, we had to go look at books to do research. It's a different world. You know, in the 1980s, you could have been there in the 1950s and not had that much of a difference in how you studied and how things happened. But after that, things changed a lot. So our students today have a lot more going on. There's a lot different way of studying and things like that. So, you know, you talk about the things that go through life, and you talk about in the Navy, hey, I can be a Marine, I can be a cyber warrior, I can be a lot of things because of the way the world's changed. But I would tell you what brought me to the academy is basically the education. And, you know, I went there wasn't as many majors, and I picked physics as my major. We didn't really have chemical engineering, but I learned a lot of things. Ja, pani moje po-ruski, and ich habe Deutsch gelernt. So I learned things besides physics. I also learned economics. I learned history, philosophy, things like that. So you have a pretty well-rounded education, so you can be a good communicator as well as do something else in your life, maybe past that. And I would say in a naval career, there's a lot of things you might get to do that you never thought you'd do going in. So I started out as a surface warrior, drove ships around, engineered ships, ran power plants, then ended up doing some other things, worked in Korea at a national staff, worked for Military Sea Lift Command for a while. I mean, I did all kinds of things. Even I had a special boat unit, did special operations. There's all kinds of things you may end up doing, so you got to be prepared. And the Naval Academy does prepare you to do a lot of different things, to be well-rounded and flexible. Congressman McCarthy said, and by the way, Congressman McCarthy has a pretty good track record of his staff and his people getting students through the academy. He will fight for these students, trust me, to make sure everything's right. And I've seen him do it. And I've seen Katie work years and years doing this job, and she's really good at it. So you're in really good hands in this district. So if you get through, you're probably going to graduate without question. So we have a very good track record, and that's part and parcel to leadership of this district throughout California now, in modeling how you get students through the nomination process into the academy. So you're in good hands here. But anyways, Congressman was saying, you got to have a well-roundedness, and then you look for the future. And I think he could be a blue and gold officer if he wasn't doing his Congress job. He has taken on more and more knowledge. He visited the academy. He knows what's going on. So he really fights for and appreciates our students. But for my education, just to say, taking that interest in doing that, getting through different steps and these wide variety of education, then going to graduate schools and everything like that, there's a lot of opportunities out there for an academy graduate. And I just want to make sure you understand that this is a competitive process. The deadlines are fixed. Apply early. That's the big thing I can tell you. I'm the area coordinator for the Central California area, and the biggest thing admissions, they keep telling you, apply early, as early as you can, get the interviews in, et cetera, because it's so competitive. They want to review these records. So do what they say. Get your stuff in early as a senior. As a junior, apply for summer seminar, apply for visits to the academy. There's all kinds of visits there. There's weekends. If you're a junior, if you want to go to the academy one weekend and see what it's like, there's weekends open for that. There's a lot of opportunities for you to get to see what academy life is all about. So I just wanted to leave you with that in mind. We really want to see you apply. We want to see you succeed. But realize the best thing you can do is study hard, work hard, get your academics in order, and then you have to be a well-rounded leader and ready to go, do whatever your country needs you to do. So that's the takeaway, and I'll be here afterwards to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
All right, the next area we're going to talk about is the United States Coast Guard Academy. Captain McGiffney will come back up to talk about that briefly. They don't let me talk about it because they're our arch rivals, and I won't say anything nice about them. But the Coast Guard Academy is included in this forum so that you have an additional academy. There are no congressional nominations required for this academy, as the Congressman said. We have had people attend, such as the BHS twins, Jake and Josh Scritchfield. And so it is actually, I shouldn't knock them, I was an exchange student there for one of my semesters, and it's an absolutely phenomenal academy. So with that, we'll play the video, and then Greg will talk.
The United States Coast Guard Academy is located approximately halfway between New York and Boston on a picturesque waterfront campus in New London, Connecticut. Its mission is to prepare leaders of character to serve as fleet-ready officers in the United States Coast Guard. This is accomplished through rigorous academics, athletic programs, and military training. As the smallest of the military academies, cadets benefit from one-on-one personal interaction with our faculty as they prepare for one of 12 fields of study in engineering, marine and environmental sciences, applied mathematics, management, or government. The Coast Guard Academy's academic programs have been nationally recognized by the Princeton Review, U.S. News and World Report's Best Colleges, and Forbes.com. More than 2/3 of our cadets participate in one of 23 varsity athletic programs. Our Division III small school standing, club, and intercompany sports ensures that all cadets have the opportunity to enjoy and contribute to their sport of choice. The military preparation, which includes summer training in the operational Coast Guard, is intense as cadets prepare for one of the fastest tracks to command in the military. It's America's only military service where all duty assignments are open to women. The U.S. Coast Guard, America's shield of freedom, is tasked with protecting the safety and security of our nation, environment, and economy. The Coast Guard Academy, offering a tradition unique among America's military services, and a degree of excellence surpassed by no other college or university. An elite education, a noble profession, an honored tradition. The United States Coast Guard Academy.
Thank you. I'm back up and here to talk a little bit about the Coast Guard. And I'm somewhat well prepared to talk about it in that I worked with the Coast Guard for several years, actually, in a staff. And I got to know how the Coast Guard operates and a lot of things they do. And I would say, if you want to go to sea and you want to do stuff operationally at sea, join the Coast Guard. Those guys and the gals are the best at what they do. I would probably say to the CNO, if you want to upgrade your seamanship training program, do what the Coast Guard does, because those guys are that good. And I really appreciate all they do with a very limited budget all over the world. It's a phenomenal opportunity there at the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard does have a lot of different things you might not think about as far as service, because they are a government entity, so they do a lot of things besides go to sea, though. So if you want a career in safety or things of that nature outside of just basic search and rescue, seamanship, that kind of thing, they're open to the Coast Guard. They do take care of a lot of things with respect to our waterways. So they do have a lot of responsibility that you wouldn't think of. They do have everything open to women, full career path for women. So that's another big plus in looking at the Coast Guard. And it's a very tight and small service, no question about it. But it's a very special service, and I can't think of a better academy and a better path if you really want to get into that line of work, because those people are true professionals, and you know, they go through a lot of different things, more so than even other academies do. Like I said, the small size of the academy is something to consider if you're looking at a smaller school and you're looking for a very tight and intimate educational experience. That's what you can get offered from the Coast Guard. Coast Guard also has a little different admissions process in that they have you apply and then they select and nominate who needs to come in. So it's really set by the admissions board there. There's no nothing other than they say, hey, we want the best of the best that want to enter. And I highly encourage any student to apply for any of the academies that want to do something like that, because there's 5 academies and they all have their own individual pluses and minuses as far as what you want to do. But bottom line is you're going to have a great education, do some great things in any academy you apply to. So I'd highly encourage you to look at the Coast Guard Academy, especially if you're looking at maritime service, because there's a high demand for that nowadays, in case you haven't seen it. And really, I think you benefit greatly from that. And as far as anything else with the Coast Guard, I can talk to you afterwards as far as what some of the things you get to do. Like I said, I worked with the staff of the Coast Guard, did a lot of coastal harbor defense with the Coast Guard, and I can tell you those people really know a lot about how to defend our country in a lot of different ways you might expect. So please feel free to ask me any questions, and thank you again for your attention.
Well, we've obviously saved the best for last. My name is Michael Raceburn. I'm a 1980 graduate of the United States Merchant Marine Academy. I served as a merchant marine officer in both the Military Sealift Command as well as the oil fields off the coast of California as the chief mate on an oil service boat. I went to law school and graduated in 1985 and became a prosecutor here in Kern County in 1985. That's right, 32 years I've been a Kern County prosecutor. And it's a great office, best office in the state. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Merchant Marine Academy and what it means to you, and because I know 90% of you never even heard of it before today. So thank you, Katie.
The United States Merchant Marine Academy, the world leader in maritime education and training. Our mission is to educate and graduate licensed merchant mariners and leaders of exemplary character. Leaders who serve America's marine transportation and defense needs in both peace and war. The Merchant Marine Academy was the first service academy to matriculate women and continues to emphasize leadership, diversity, unity, and respect. Our values are simple and direct. Service, honor, and excellence tell our story. A story with over 70 years of history in producing the best merchant marine officers and maritime leaders for America. Merchant Marine graduates abide by the motto, Acta non verba, deeds, not words, and are leaders who exemplify the concept of service above self. With 95% of the world's products delivered by sea, the health of maritime industry requires quick, safe, and efficient cargo transport around the world. Graduates of the Merchant Marine Academy can be found leading every level of this transportation network, supporting our country's economy and defense needs. The Merchant Marine Academy is the only service academy where 3 graduation credentials are earned: a Bachelor of Science degree, a United States Coast Guard license as a deck or engineering officer, and an officer's commission in any of the armed services or with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, also known as NOAA. Midshipmen spend 300 days training on board United States merchant ships, traveling to 7 different continents during their sea year, and receive a salary during their at-sea training. All Merchant Marine Academy graduates have a service obligation. Graduates must serve for 5 years in the United States maritime industry as merchant marine officers on commercial vessels supporting the nation's commerce and defense interests, or 5 years of active duty in any of the nation's armed services. Those choosing to serve as merchant marine officers also have an 8-year service obligation to enlist in any reserve unit of the armed forces. We are the only service academy that offers this choice. With small student-to-faculty ratios, world-class simulators and classroom labs, and a fleet of over 100 training vessels, the Merchant Marine Academy is in step with emerging industry trends and technology. Programs of academic, professional, and regimental innovation help ensure 100% job placement at graduation. The Merchant Marine Academy offers a dynamic learning environment with a vibrant campus culture that includes broad-based athletic programs offering 22 varsity sports at the NCAA Division III level and 6 club teams. Located on 83 acres of waterfront property along Long Island's Gold Coast, the Merchant Marine Academy is just a short distance from New York City with its many cultural, social, and entertainment opportunities. The United States Merchant Marine Academy is a challenging and rewarding place to live, learn, and work. Join us and chart your own course.
Merchant Marine Academy will provide you the education that everyone's already talked to you about. But we are unique, in case you didn't pick up on some of those things. None of the other academies will send you into service for 300 days. We're the only academy that, as part of your college education, you will spend 300 days at sea on merchant vessels. I had my 21st birthday in Sydney, Australia. Okay. So that you can qualify for your license. We're the only academy that if you want to go into any military branch, you can. You can even fly planes. All right. You will get a reserve commission in any of the services. It was my privilege to serve for 29 years as a naval officer and retire in 2009. That's where Greg and I first met a long time ago. So you can do all those things and still pursue a civilian career as I did, completely separate from the Merchant Marine. It's a small school, and for those of you who were here last year, I gave you a tale of woe. Our sea year had been suspended. Our accreditation was under attack. We didn't even know if we were going to be here this year. Well, you heard about West Point being #1 by USA Today? In 1 year, guess who's #2? Merchant Marine Academy comes back. You may have seen a bald guy up there. It wasn't me. It's Admiral Busby, class of '79. For the first time in a very, very long time, the head of the Maritime Administration who runs Kings Point is a Kings Pointer. Money is flowing back into our academy, and the recognition that no part of America can exist without maritime transportation, and the strategic need for maritime officers is being recognized. Department of Transportation Secretary Cho is a maritime transportation expert in her business. The clothes you are wearing, the cars you are driving, the fuel for their airplanes, tanks, and ships come from merchant marine ships, manned by merchant marine officers like myself. The academy's here, and I want you to think about it. It may not be your first choice. We're not as fancy as West Point. We're a lot closer to New York City. We were so close that on 9/11, our service ship from our port right there that you saw was alongside the World Trade Centers within an hour, providing firefighting support. Midshipmen were there. So think about our academy. We may not be number one in your book, but we will be number two. It's a phenomenal experience. Any of these academies are phenomenal experiences. They really are. But we think we are unique, and you've never heard about us before, so you got a really good chance of getting in. Thank you very much. That concludes the presentation that we've been putting on, and we look forward to spending some time with you. But before we do that, I'm going to invite Tyler to come back up. I think we need to go into a little more detail about Tyler's background. He not only was he now doesn't even work here for California Resources, but he served as 5 years as an artillery officer. That means he shot things that made things go bang with loud noises. And he held key leadership positions and served as a combat advisor in Afghanistan during Operation Enduring Freedom. He's various leadership awards and recognition, including most notably nomination for the 1st Cavalry Division for the General MacArthur Leadership Award. He currently serves on the board of directors for CASA, which I thank you for all those child victims that unfortunately I see in the courtroom from time to time. He is passionate about serving our veterans, and he holds a Bachelor's of Science in Management with a minor degree in Systems Engineering, and he will soon graduate from USC Marshall with his Master of Business for Veterans. He is married and has 3 children, and so he's a leader in this community. We're happy to have him here. We're going to go into a Q&A because, as you can guess, he's the closest one graduating from Academy here, so he's more familiar about what's going on. I'm going to wander around the audience with a microphone, so we're just basically going to start here and move in that direction. If you'll be patient and give everyone a chance, we'll keep going. Tyler?
Thank you. While the microphone circulates, I can touch a little bit more about Army service if you would like, post-academy experiences. I had the opportunity to, as he mentioned, serve as an artillery officer. As an artilleryman, you not only serve on a gun line, you also serve as a forward observer. So I had a fire support team in rural parts of Afghanistan. I worked as a combat advisor. We're embedded with some Afghan National Army personnel and Afghan National Police. So if you want to know what it's like to eat goat with guys that are descendants of Alexander the Great, or if you want to know what it's like to work on a gun line or to see strategy at various echelons of the Army, I had the opportunity to work for the chief of my branch. We did foreign military sales, acquisitions of new technology, development of curriculum, forecasting of personnel. So it was a fast 5 years. It was a great 5 years. So open up the floor for a question.
Questions over here? Come on, you got a real live Army guy here to talk to.
Can you describe your transitioning from military life into now your civilian life?
Right. So I got out of the Army on a Friday, and I started at CRC here in town on Monday. So I got out at Fort Sill, which is in southern Oklahoma, about 90 miles south of Oklahoma City. Got in my truck and I drove out here. So what enabled that transition, that smooth transition, was part of the West Point network, truthfully. So I interned with Oxy when I was a cadet, down in Argentina, did crude sales and marketing for Oxy there. I had great relationships with other graduates that worked within the company. They knew I was looking at getting out of the Army. I had a great run in the Army, and I was looking for a little bit something different, something more conducive for family life, since I have 3 little ones. So I had that good conversation with them, and they said, well, we've got an opening, be here on Monday. I said, yes, sir, I'll be there. So.
Any other questions on this side? Can you pass this mic down, please? Thank you. Sorry.
If you had one piece of advice for like a sophomore or junior who's thinking of attending West Point or
Right.
trying to get an application out, what would it be?
West Point, as with any academy, wants a well-rounded individual. They want the young adult to be able to prove community service, whether it's through scouting, through volunteering at food banks, at the homeless center. They want leaders of character. So a leader of character will be able to volunteer his or her time. They're also able to be leaders on their teams, on their sporting teams. Sporting teams are fantastic filters for academies because it's a proven source of leadership. It's say, hey, I was the captain for my football team, for my basketball team, softball. So if there's any one thing for a young adult to be preparing right now, it would be certainly to be as involved as possible. Somebody with only a 4.0 average or that's taking AP classes and IB courses, that's fantastic. But if they're not involved in their community, West Point, as with the other academies I would venture to say, will go with the more well-rounded individual every time.
When they talk about competition, you have to understand that everyone who goes to one of these academies is a successful student athlete or a successful student community. You have to set yourself apart. Everyone, and I know from talking to everything, I don't know about Bob, but I know with Greg, we all were student athletes in high school. We got the best grades we could. We were in scouts, community. What sets you apart from the other 11,000 people who are going to apply?
That's right.
That's really what you have to think about. So it's not just well-rounded, be challenging. Those AP courses count just as much, but it's got to be matched.
So, could you explain the whole prep school process?
Right, absolutely, and that's something that I would probably yield that question to Katie to delve into a little bit more. So if you're a recruited athlete, there's multiple ways into the prep school. Sometimes academies will send recruited athletes there as a redshirt year. Sometimes a congressman might say, hey, your academics are good. We think you need a little extra year growing. So they will nominate you to the prep school. You cannot apply for the prep school. The academy will send you to the prep school. So another path to the prep school is also coming from active duty. If you're, which we mentioned before, is an excellent way into the academy. You can enlist, do a 3-year commitment, maybe a 4-year commitment as an E4, and then make the transition back. So it's, truthfully, young men and women that come from the prep school and come from active duty service will do far better at the academy than somebody coming directly out of high school. And there's you come in more mature, physically and mentally, you're more disciplined, you know what you want, you're more driven, you've obviously set yourself apart as this is the passion and this is the path I'm going to take. So to the prep school, coming directly from Congressman McCarthy's office, that'll be a conversation with Katie.
And hello. Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
When we talk academics, I'm here for my son who presently is showing a pig at the fair, and he has lots of community service. He's in CCADETS. He's student athlete, and obviously with FFA. But his GPA is not stellar. It's a 3.0. Is that going to hinder him getting into one of the academies?
Well, GPA is part of the metric to get in, and I can't speak to it has to be a 3.0 or it has to be a 3.5 or 3.7. But if your son is a leader within the community, and he's getting these letters of recommendation from coaches and academic advisors and other leaders within the community. Those certainly help lift up a lower GPA. So it's all about being a well-rounded individual. But at the end of the day, whether it's your GPA, whether it's an SAT or ACT, these are metrics that will compare your children, your young adults, across the rest of the U.S. So for every one person here, there's 100 elsewhere within the country that are competing for the same slots. So it's not to be discouraged, right? But it's a standard metric across the board.
Tyler, I do have a question. I'm a 2014 parent of a graduate of West Point. That's why I'm in the blue. They have a game going on right now with Tulane.
Oh, Tulane, that's right.
Who will win the next Army-Navy game?
Army.
Yes, good answer.
Beat Navy.
Did you want to comment on do you remember applying to other universities? Because my son did do UCs and Cal States and some privates and West Point and the academy system. Did you want to comment on that? Because he went that route, and I think that's good advice for everybody. Sure. He also applied the ROTC. So he had his plan B and his plan C if his dream didn't happen, which for him was going to West Point. But did you want to comment on that?
Well, sure. So I was accepted to both Air Force and to West Point, and I chose West Point over the community aspect, the networking aspect. It's got a long lineage. The application processes were very rigorous for each one. I received nominations from Ralph Hall in Texas to both academies. It's a more arduous process than applying to USC or to UCLA or to Stanford or another highly rated school. It's extensive. You need to be on top of your game. The deadlines will come up very fast. You get started early, and stay in active communication the entire time. So whereas academic counselors may be a little bit more of assistance to getting into CSUB or to USC because of those networks there, this is definitely a longer process, medical-wise, academically, being able to prove physical fitness tests. So it's all about, when you apply to USC, they don't ask for a physical fitness test, right? So you need to be able to backwards plan your schedule and your calendar in order to get those physical fitness requirements and those tests in, so that way you can have everything uploaded to the portals.
Thank you. Questions here? Okay. Would you ask one?
How does the recruiting process for athletics differ at the academies from other schools?
So I was recruited for football 40 pounds ago, and I was recruited for football from Army, from West Point, and Navy, and I was also recruited from other Division I schools. It's very, very much the same process. You'll get your official visit that goes to the academy, and you'll be able to, they'll introduce you to, those teams and, academics and everything else. Now, I will tell you that as a student athlete, and this is not to be discouraging at all, because I was, but as a student athlete, it's a hard, at any academy, it's going to be difficult, right? So it's a tough course load. There are no exceptions made. You'll be expected to have every single thing that your peers are doing. You will do that and then some. So while some might be going off to play football, or they might be going down to go sail on the Hudson River, you go up to Michie Stadium at West Point and go to practice. So, and you'll stay up there for a while. Now, there are opportunities for you in summer to take a class ahead, and that's what I did for a couple summers. Just try to stay ahead and just help alleviate any course load or late nights that would follow. But the same process applies, and there's a lot of fun within NCAA sports and within club sports too. So outside of NCAA sports, we talked briefly before about club sports. So if you're interested in rugby, or any other sport. West Point has a phenomenal rugby team. That's a club sport, and they travel all around the world. We have several guys playing on the USA team, and that's what they got to do post academy life. Actually, they served out their time there. In fact, we have several West Point football players right now in the NFL. Alejandro Villanueva, he's the starting left tackle for the Steelers, a good friend of mine. Josh McNary, who's a linebacker for the Jaguars, and Colin Mooney for the Titans. So there's certainly paths to professional sports, but I can tell you this though, that every single recruited athlete that goes to the academy understands that there is a service commitment, and that's why they want to go.
And just to make a highlight, those schools up there, Air Force, Navy, and Army are all Division I's. Coast Guard and Merchant Marine Academy are Division III. So if you're not a very good swimmer like I was, you could let her 4 years in a row and still make a team. So anyway.
As someone who didn't participate in any athletic clubs and teams in high school, would that potentially hinder my potential
acceptance, right?
Acceptance
right.
into any military academy?
So I did have classmates and friends that maybe didn't play or letter in high school sports. But again, let me hark back to it's about being well-rounded, and how are you painting yourself inside your application that you're well-rounded, and then what separates you, what differentiates you from your peers in high school, right? So maybe you weren't a 4-year letterman in high school, maybe though you were leading a community drive somewhere else. How do you set yourself apart as a leader within the community? That's how West Point, that's how the academies will view you. They want a well-rounded individual that comes in.
Questions on this half of the, I'll come around to you. Questions? All right. You look like about halfway.
Okay, so as you said, there's a lot of different branches that you can go into after your 4 years at the academy. How did you choose which branch you wanted to go into? Right, so I chose field artillery because as an artilleryman, you have to have a holistic view of the battlefield. You have to know where all the moving pieces are. You have to know where the infantry is. You have to know where the armor is. You have to know where your gun line is. As a young officer, there's no other branch except for maybe aviation, where you have to know where all the moving pieces are. So you're coordinating fire for maybe somebody that's 30 kilometers out, but you have to know, you have a holistic view of every single moving element. And it's as a young officer, as 24, 25 years old, you're commanding these lethal rounds that have these blast impacts of 50 meters and a radius of 50 meters. And so it's a lot of lethality that you control. It's a lot of responsibility, and it's a little bit more exciting than carrying a rucksack on my back. So like with the infantry. If you're maybe a combat arms isn't necessarily for you. There's other aspects, coming into the Army. So whether it's medical school, you can also cross branch into the Marines. We have a number of classmates that went into the Marine Corps, and then ultimately several that are in the SEALs now. So there are those avenues where you can do it. Not to the extent that Merchant Marine is by any means. Those are very limited spots that the Army does provide. They're coveted. But there's a world of opportunities that's out there that you just never considered. Most of the time when people think about the Army, they think of infantry and armor, tanks and artillery.
Okay, we are hitting 10:30. We only have this space till 11 o'clock, and we want to give these individuals an opportunity to talk to you individually. I'll take 2 more questions. I saw this gentleman and that gentleman back there. Yes, sir.
Good morning. I wanted to see if you could elaborate a little bit more on the SMP program for the West Point. The simultaneous membership program.
I'm not familiar with that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
When it comes to community service, what specifically are you guys looking for, or what are the academies looking for?
Well, a common one is Boy Scouts. You know, are you a great metric for the academy to measure service is being an Eagle Scout. It's a way that differentiates yourself. It's common across all of the U.S. where you know an Eagle Scout here is going to be compared to an Eagle Scout in Texas as in New Jersey and Florida. So that's a great way to measure community service. Now, if you're not in scouting, it's you know by this point it's probably a little too late to get started on that. So how else can you measure yourself within the community? What is your school doing, you know, for community service aspects? Are you a leader? Are you driving those initiatives within your school?
All right, thank you, Tyler.
Yes, sir.
For those of you who are beginning the admissions process or the application process, you're beginning a journey that could lead you almost anywhere. You are fortunate to be in this congressional district, which in all the years I've been participating in it, a number of candidates that have gone to the Merchant Marine Academy, has been a phenomenal congressional district. Thank you to your parents who are going to encourage you and bring you along and let you go. And thank you for having the desire to serve your country. It is something that there are hundreds who haven't decided to do that, but you have. And it's an amazing life that you're choosing. I don't think there's anyone up here who regrets a single minute. No matter how cold we got, no matter how hungry we got, no matter how tired we got. And yes, by the way, all-nighters are very common at the academies, especially when it comes to finals. All right. So with that, we're going to end the open session. All the representatives are going to stay here for a few minutes. We have this to 11 o'clock. I know my Air Force colleagues have a table up there. I have a table in that corner, and the rest of them will be here to answer your questions individually, hand out application cards. Make sure you touch base with Katie if you haven't already. She is phenomenal, and we appreciate you coming here today. Thank you very much, and thank you to my colleagues for a great presentation today.